Hello everyone. In this video, I would like to continue my discussion of Chapter 7 of the Scarlet Letter, A Walk in the Forest. And in this video, I would like to talk about Hester Prynne's strength and Arthur Dimmesdale's weakness. On page 49, after Hester tells Dimmesdale the truth that Roger Chillingsworth is her husband and his enemy, he says, "How can I live in the same house, breathing the same air with this deadly enemy? Think for me, Hester. You are strong. Tell me what to do." She replies, "You must not stay with this evil man." He says, "But where can I go? I cannot hide from God." And then she says, "God will show mercy if you are strong enough to take advantage of it." So let's talk a little bit about Hester Prynne's strength. And we see this in chapter number 1 when she's brought out in front of the entire town to stand on the platform with her baby. On page 4, it said, "The woman's face was suddenly pink under the stares of the crowd, but she smiled proudly. And looked around at her neighbors and the people of her town." And of course, she's wearing this beautifully designed scarlet A on her chest. It should be the mark of her shame, but she wears it proudly. And then on page 6, it says, "Hester Prynne accepted her punishment bravely." We know in chapter number 3 that she has become an outcast in the town, that she lives by herself with her daughter. And why doesn't she leave this town? She says the reason she gave herself for staying was this: "I sinned here and I will suffer my earthly punishment here." She's strong. She is willing to do what she feels that she needs to do. And so this idea of her strength is compared to or contrasted with the weakness of Dimmesdale. Notice the irony in chapter number 1 when he turns to her to ask her to tell the town who the father of her child is, when of course he is the father of her child. And he says on page 10, that Hester, although he may have to step down from a high place and stand beside you on the platform of shame, it is better to do that than to hide a guilty heart through his life. Heaven has allowed you public shame and the chance to win an open battle with the evil inside you and the sadness outside. Do you refuse to give him that same chance, which he may be too frightened to take himself? We see that Dimmesdale is very frightened. He's frightened of the public shame. On page 29, look at the quote of Roger Chillingsworth towards the bottom of the page. He says, "There goes a woman who cannot hide her shame. It is there for all to see. But is Hester Prynne more or less miserable than people who keep their sinfulness hidden?" Dimmesdale answers him, "I cannot answer for her. There was a look of pain in her face which it hurt me to see. But I think it must be better for sinners to be free to show their pain, as this poor woman Hester does, than to cover it all up in their heart." But that's what he does. Now, in chapter number 5, he thinks about confessing to the members of his church. And on page 32, it said, "More than once, Mr. Dimmesdale prepared himself to speak to his people about the black secret of her soul. More than once, he stood in front of them in church, took a deep breath, and told them, 'What?' And then he talks about his sin, but he speaks about it in a very general manner. He calls himself a sinner, but he never tells the members of the church what his sin actually was. Now, later in this chapter, he's standing on the scaffold with Hester and her daughter Pearl. And Pearl asks him at the top of page 36, "Will you stand here with Mother and me tomorrow, Mr. Dimmesdale?" And he answers her, "No, my little Pearl." The moment of passionate feeling had passed. Already he was trembling, and all his fear of public shame had returned. "I shall stand with you and your mother one day, but not tomorrow." He's too afraid of what the members of his church, of his community might say. So if we move again to chapter 7, A Walk in the Forest, Hester proposes to him that he leave this community, that perhaps even return to Europe where he can be a free man. On page 50, he gives his first reason why he can't do that. He says, "I can't do it. I cannot walk away and leave my work. Although my own soul is lost, I must do what I can for the other human souls in my care." He says his job as the priest is too important. He can't abandon his job. But then Hester again speaks to him with passion. She says, "You must leave this all behind you. Begin again. Why wait another day in this place? Go now." And here is his response. "Oh, Hester, I am not strong enough, not brave enough to go out into the wide, strange, difficult world alone." Sadly, hopelessly, he repeated the word, "Alone, Hester." And again, she has to be strong. She says to him, "You shall not go alone." So here we see the contrast between Hester's strength and Dimmesdale's weakness. Will he be able to finally tell everyone that he too had sinned? Will he be strong enough to finally leave this community? We'll see in the next chapter. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed my video. Bye-bye.